One shot. Let's begin. The Outlier, a neat perspective by Shaval Bakanawa. Translated upload by No Group and November 15, 2000. Okay, maybe that's their birthday. Well then, this is a self-published one. It's labeled philosophical. I wonder if I read one of their works before. I'll reserve judgment until after. I feel like maybe one of them, but the name doesn't sound familiar. So with all that being said, let's begin, everybody. Okay, zoom in. Mm. I've lived for 24 years, and it has always been apparent. People are driven less by rationality, but more often by emotion and petty behavior. Refusing unpleasant truths, they find fulfillment in their lives. They easily turn to others for comfortable answers by being above others. I was never given a choice but to live amongst these people. I was born to what is considered as a lower class, and I've been stuck here ever since, avoiding contact with people as much as I can, struggling to live in peace. Orf, ooh, ooh, and making the best out of the cards I'm dealt with. I often feel that I don't belong here. The Outlier by Cheval Bakanawa. Up until high school, I was able to easily get ahead of most of my peers. I was the best in math, science, and English. Not because I was gifted, but because barely anyone studies. That time I always thought I was truly special, more intelligent than others. I don't know when, but it was only later I realized studying is the least of their priority. Circumstances left them with no choice but to focus on livelihood. Life's miserable enough. It's understandable they pursue short term happiness. Sounds obvious, but a lot of people still think that other people are stupid for not knowing about their own bubble. In my experience, everyone graduates regardless of effort, even the worst students, which made efforts more than passing grade reduced to nothing. It made me learn to detest and avoid hard work. It's my fault for being overly cautious back then. I could be having fun instead or do something else productive. Yet currently, I'm jobless, and it has been 2 years since I graduated college. While I was in college, I managed to get a girlfriend, and we've been together for 5 years. She is both a blessing and a curse. Back then, I had solitude, years being alone, and I would be fine. While she did give me company, she gave me stress, stole away my peace of mind, my time and freedom, and I'm still lonely. I can never always tell her everything. And where I was born and still live, it's fine. Life is too subjective that it's always easy to say. Others have it worse, and I consider myself cheapened out in life. My room is cramped. My room used to be wide open, having no doors, no curtains, which is an introvert's hell. My laptop before starts 30 minutes before it turns on, and it's still hot in here. Mosquitoes are still everywhere. My conditions got better eventually, but by that time, I'm already 24 years old. And my motivation? Gone. Work ethic? Gone. My hatred for people grew more intense. And I'm always tired. I'm just not fit for the modern world. It's a place of dishonesty, shamelessness, being social, and overworking yourself. But I'm not willing to do what others do to live, so I live in denial, taking what joys I can until my eventual ruin. Afterwards, thanks for reading. I feel embarrassed making it in the end. I ended up rushing it, but since I already made it, might as well post. It's easy to get tunnel vision when making manga, since there's so much to do. Anyways, have a good way. Thanks once again. Cheval Bakanawa, aka November 15, 2000. Okay. Okay, this is yeah, okay. The name just the art I feel like I read an independent comic a couple months back that reminded me of this. At least the art style, not necessarily the person. Was it like the edgy comic? I don't know, I forget. Um how do I put this? I I'm there's plenty of people in the world that are like this, right? They've been disappointed by life, and as a result they tend to view the world in a worse place. And then he worked hard at school, he ended up jobless, and there you go. um but also, I think this is a funny line, these four here. My motivation gone, work ethic gone. Oh, no, no, where is it here? Where's the line about here we go. It's a place of dishonesty, shamelessness, and being social and overworking yourself. Being social probably shouldn't be categorized amongst these four things. It's interesting and it's entertaining um, for people to say that, but it kind of gets into the mindset that you put dishonesty, shamelessness, and overwork yourself in, the category of being social. And I imagine that I don't know if I wouldn't say that this is Encel vibes. I would say it's um person who is maybe too cynical for their own good. I wouldn't exactly call them smart, right? I could say they did well in education, but this is a person who might have an ego that's a little undeserved, or maybe not undeserved, but like a little bit too much of an ego, like, be like regrets a little bit too much instead of moving forward and doing whatever. But if they make it happy, um, and that's important. But it's a lot of excuses, right? I can understand that, hey, everybody graduates regardless of effort, but if you took in some skills from education, then you should be okay, as there's like a lot that goes on to it. But there is importance in being social, in like personable amongst other people, because that does help you in the job market. That does help you get ahead. That does help you this side or the other, right? Like there's very few jobs in this world that a person can do almost exclusively and they're not replaceable, right? Um, you can generally not, if you are very good at your job, you're not replaceable, okay? Um, then you could kind of be an ass, right? But if you are replaceable, which most people are, it's like, okay, at least being somewhat pleasant to work around while doing your job is important, right? So, yeah, I understand this because believe me, there are plenty of people that should not get through the system that do. And it's unfortunately a systemic issue. But say it has no values is whatever. And this one too, I'm actually a good girlfriend. She's a blessing and a curse. I'm still lonely. I can never always tell her everything. And that's another thing. Like ideally be somebody you could tell everybody to and do whatever, but I get there are sometimes some thoughts you want to keep to yourself, right? Um yeah. And okay, Japan's cost of living is fair enough there, right? I can't speak much about the cost of living there. But I'm just not fit for the modern world. I'm never a big fan of these themes because we tend to confuse cynicalness for intelligence, and that bothers me to an extraordinary degree. Um, it's just that it's obvious the world sucks, right? It's overtly obvious, like we're slowly killing the planet. There's wars, there's genocides, there's like all the crime, all the like assaults, all the horrific acts or atrocities that go on in the world, and the inconveniences, as well as just the general systemic nature where like unfortunately like psychopathy or sociopathy does tend to get rewarded and move up, right? At least in terms of, let's say, like business and capitalism and restricting people in the cost of living and this, that, and the other, right? I don't think there's any delusion about this. And that's kind of what makes cynicism, I don't think, particularly intelligent or appealing. You're kind of just hurting yourself consistently by saying very obvious things. Um, and if we were cynical, it kind of almost be confused like giving up, right? And it kind of appears that the character that are portraying, not the author, but the person they're portraying here, is somebody who is giving up because they're too smart for the world, and the world doesn't reward hard work, doesn't reward this, that, or the other, And it's like, okay, right? Like he's all about going like long term and this or the other, but it's a lot of bitterness for something that happened, I don't know how long ago. And maybe this is the point. It's supposed to like giving me this type of reaction because it's like one of those people who thinks they're too cool for the world. And they're like, oh, people are driven less by rational and more often by emotion and petty behavior, right? And that's true, absolutely true. Like the amount of times where I'm like, okay, if we take the logical approach, this is the answer. But then other people will go to a different side or a different perspective, right? And that's like another thing, right? Or then this person's like, oh, people are uncomfortable, so they turn to religion or they turn to capitalism or families or friends to find answers. And like refusing unpleasant truths, they find fulfillment in their lives. And it's like by being above others. I don't know if like this person here is trying to be above others necessarily if you try to have a nice family. And although maybe you could make the argument that right inherently like romance and like business and religion others do have a degree of competition amongst them if you choose that. But yeah, this too cool for school mentality, this too cool for I'm so smart. These people are so stupid. They're such emotional beings. While he himself is a super emotional being from this here, right? The emotion is just disappointment and cynicism, which masks he has high intelligence, but I don't even think it's that much, right? Because if you are choosing, you know, I think when it comes to intelligence and, uh, I don't want to toot my own horn. I think I'm at least a decently intelligent guy. And one of the things I've recognized during my life is that I'm responsible for my happiness and I could choose to like be cynical, I could choose to be whatever, and that's easy, but I prefer a little bit more of an optimistic approach to life where you go, "Hey, is it the smartest choice or most logical choice?" No, not necessarily here because it's difficult, but it's also the smart and logical choice, even if it's not. Now, what does that mean, the contradiction? If we look at things on a surface level, it's not the smart choice, right? Because it's like, oh, the world sucks. It's so miserable. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But then when you like go deeper, what is the inherent value of just moping around, being depressed, being pessimistic all the time? The inherent value is you're going and breaking yourself down further, right? And as a result, you're not doing yourself any good. You're not doing the world any good. And trying to believe in the good, the change that can happen in the world, ultimately you're going to go and prop yourself up a little bit more and more and more. And then through this, maybe you'll make your life a little bit better, or maybe you might even change the world a bit more, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, well, as a result of this, then I'm going to try and cause change, even if I'll be constantly disappointed by the system. Now, this is also inherently against human nature because negative thoughts, negative memories tend to stick with people more, right? This is kind of like an evolutionary thing. You remember the negative things more because it helps you with survival, this, that, and the other. And so it can be hard to remember positive things in the world, right? It can be. And some people would try to argue like toxic positivity or whatever. But the thing is that I'm under no delusion about the world. It's just that I am choosing to navigate the world in a very different way, which might cause some change, no matter how small, in a way that is beneficial for my health as well as in other person's health, right? It's like there's like this kind of meme that goes around I see where like what is it? The simple answer, like the dumb answer is like just be happy. Okay, that is inherently a dumb answer most of the people, right? And a more intelligent answer would kind of be like, or a more comprehensive answer would be like, yeah, take care of yourself, live a decent standard of living, da 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 da. And if you do so, then you will probably more than likely be happy, right? Happiness can be complicated. But then the gigabrain answer is just be happy, right? That's like what a lot of things, and maybe I'm fundamentally misunderstanding this, but like Buddhism is kind of based on like your choice to be happy, right? Inherently, that's kind of appealing with all religions. We're choosing to like be happy despite the circumstances, right? For a more hopeful future, whatever that might be. But I think that that's oh man, I'm making this a whole philosophical conundrum here when it comes to this here. Life is simultaneously complex and not complex at the same time because emotions are to an extent a choice, right? Like it's not an easy choice and it's not difficult, right? Or it's not an easy thing and it's difficult to do so, right? And of course, there's plenty of exceptions like the medical rules, this, that, and the other, but there are circumstances that you can choose and do this, that, or the other and try to better your situation, right? And so that's kind of ultimately what a lot of this I think comes down to is that you could choose to look at the surface level and be miserable and hate the world and everything sucks and you're absolutely right and look, the dumbest people are the happiest because they're naive, because they're not as they're not as privy to the world, right, as things happen, right? But then you kind of recognize, oh, there's still an inherent choice to be happiness there, right? And yeah, I think that's the thing here. Well, I'm not just like whatever with this person here is that, and I'm not saying, I'm saying this too, like this has been like a philosophy that I've inherently had to go through myself because I'm chronically depressed all the time. I go through periods for maybe like 2 3 weeks to like a month even. I'm just like a little bit lower, and it seems to kind of be like a cyclical thing for me. Some of it's through choices of my own or lifestyle habits or this, that, or the other. Um, but yeah, like it's ultimately at a certain point you got to take responsibility for your own happiness, right? Um, and I think that's important to be said. Will you get the perfect outcome? No, you're not going to get the perfect outcome. Um, but it's still worth the effort. And I'm not. I'm gonna admit to like, right, I still make the choices where things are bad or whatever. Or, like I'll say like if I'm down on myself because I'm still single, it'd be like nobody wants me, da 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 da. Right? If I get into a really bad episode, but there's also the times where like, okay, I need to recognize that I'm not talking to myself in a proper way. That's how you talk to yourself is important, and that I am not doing any good by reveling in my sadness. And so, even if it's something small like going for a walk or eating a little healthier, sleeping a little bit more, or journaling, all of these are like important to my inherent happiness level, right? And so, yeah, I'm just. I think this is good in the sense it got me a very visceral reaction um, with this person as they're just trying to do whatever. I just if this was like your average cynical person who doesn't really go anywhere, so I think that's fine. This person was meant to publish, meant to do that. I just uh, and they're not even necessarily trying to do whatever. He's disappointed by the world, and rightfully so, right? I knew somebody who had like a master's degree in like some very specific water treatment and couldn't find a job, right? They were constantly depressed and sad, and it caught them out of my life eventually because of that. Where sometimes misery just loves company, and they just want to keep bringing you down, and this, that, and the other, and nothing's ever good, and da 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 da, and then you catch it too, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I guess in a more lighthearted way to kind of get what I'm saying across, it's like with exercise, right? Like you just lift heavy shit and then you like run a bit, eat mildly healthy, get enough sleep. You're cool, fine, you're healthy. But you go a little deeper. And it's like, well, if I sleep without any sunlight in my room, and if I go and I make sure to fall asleep at the same time every day, and I do very specific exercises that will go and hit multiple parts of the body and are very functionally strong. And if I eat the right type of vegetables at the right amount of times to get the right amount of protein and I make sure to do like this or the other, then okay, I'll be healthy. So health is complex, but then at the end of the day, when you really look into it, it's like, oh, right, I just need to eat a little bit healthier, lift a little bit heavier, get to do a little bit of cardio and just sleep a little better, and generally you'll be a healthier person, right? And is that the most optimal thing? You could always maximize, but inherently, like, the simple stuff is also correct. It's just that you don't need to complicate it too much in the end. And yeah, I guess that's a nice way for me to break it down, or at least how I view it, or my own general philosophy. Because I spent years, and I still spend time optimizing this, that, and the other. When just a little bit simpler is okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I guess that's everything, everybody. So, with all that being said, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for being bored, y'all. Peace out. Oh, there's the button.